Okay, last up, we're just going to go over the Enlightenment. So all of this is in successorship, right? You have the Middle Ages, you have the Renaissance, you have the Enlightenment. And they're all building on this idea of the human and of the self. The Enlightenment is continuing that thought from John Milton where you're questioning traditional authority. So you're really questioning, well, why is the king in charge? Better yet, you know, the system in the school, the way it works, at least at the level of the school, is you have the principal, vice principal, you have the teachers, you have the students. It's really not that, now that I think about it, it's really not that different from the way the French feudal society was run, right? The vast majority of the population is at the lowest category, right? That's correct, that's the students, right? So how much decision-making power do you feel like you have?
I can leave whenever I want, so.
You can leave whenever you want.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your choice of opting in, opting out, right? What other decisions are you allowed to make? How much power and influence do you feel like you have as a student?
Not a lot.
Not a lot? And maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I think it's more truth, right? How much decision-making power do you think the teachers have? More than the students or less? Maybe a little bit more, right? And now we have both our administrators here. How much power do you think the administrators have? If they want to make a change in the school, do you think they can make that change? Right? And so in the Enlightenment, they're questioning that authority of the system. Why does the king get to lead?
Mr. Quadritis, is Joseph here?
No, he's not. He was here earlier in the day, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. There's also this idea that they're embracing that humanity can be improved through rational change. So if you really logically, rationally think about how to better your life, how to better a society, that you can actually improve it. That things aren't just going, you know, as the saying goes, to hell in a handbasket. That things aren't getting worse. We can make them better. Okay. Now, we've talked a lot about political ideas, and I don't get too much into it in my notes, but there are also major advances and new information in the fields of math, science, philosophy. Okay. Each region, particularly in Europe, each region had its own Renaissance, had its own thought leaders. Okay. There's also the French and American Revolution. They create these legal documents, which we looked at in the first unit. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, that's for the French. The Declaration of Independence, that's for the Americans. I have that at the back of the room. Right, those two documents really shift the way a government is allowed to function and the role of individuals in society. Okay. They create these documents, they outline the rights of a citizen, equality under the law, and egalitarian societies, which egalitarian, scratch my head, is basically people are treated equal, more or less, or viewed as equal.
Right, equality, right?
I don't know if equality is a word, but egalitarian is, yeah, we're viewed the same.
Stem from it, so.
Mm-hmm. John Locke is the guy we want to focus on in particular for this one, but he, like John Milton before him, he rejects this divine right of kings. He thinks that governments are formed by the mutual and eventually implied agreement of society. So mutual meaning we vote you in, and then implied. Once we voted you in, we agree that you're leading us. Okay? If you lose the consent of the governed, meaning you lose confidence in that leader, what do you think happens? Kick him out, or you get rid of him. Okay? That is an idea used by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, but that's a whole other topic. John Locke, when we get into it, we'll also look at his role in liberal thought. That's not in this lesson, though, but he develops this idea, or he defined property as the product of a person's labor, which is a very interesting way to consider property. Right, so if you build something that was your labor, it's your property, you own it. If you work for 10 years, 20 years paying off your house, you own it, which isn't necessarily true anymore, but we'll get into that later. This idea of your labor and your property was used both by Adam Smith and Karl Marx. We'll look more into that later on. But he has three natural rights. You have a right to life, you have a right to liberty, which is freedom, and you have a right to property. Okay? Voltaire, we don't necessarily look at too much in this course, but he was basically a classical liberalist. What do I want to say about this? Constitutional monarchy is important because one document that is important but we don't really look at in this course is the Magna Carta, which I have a copy of on that side of the room, which essentially was one of the legal documents that put restrictions on the power of the British king. Okay. Oh, how much more? Okay, we have 2 more slides. Okay, hang in there. So we have Rousseau. He's very important, and Adam Smith. He's like foundational to this course. Rousseau, like many of his philosophers of his time, he examined a hypothetical state of nature. Okay. He believed that the first person to state a claim to a piece of land was the true founder of civil society. Okay. But Rousseau wanted that undone. He didn't want people to have stuff necessarily. He didn't want someone to lay a claim to property, to a desk. Because then that means that no one else can claim access to that desk. And maybe you having one desk and someone else having a different desk leads to jealousy. And like Thomas Hobbes would say, well, your jealous self-interest might lead to violence. Like, I mean, you wouldn't do it, but maybe you'd kill somebody for your chair. Maybe you'd do that. Who would do that? Would you kill someone for a chair? Right? Adam Smith, we'll talk about him more specifically later on. We'll go really into detail, but he laid the foundations of classical free markets. He discussed and developed ideas around the division of labor. We'll talk about that again when we have Adam Smith's video. And how rational self-interest and competition can lead to economic prosperity. Okay, so not only do you want your society to prosper, but you want a healthy economy. Right? Like again, it comes back to the fundamental that having money is better than not having money. Right? Having things of value is better than not having things of value. Right now in our society, we view money as valuable. 1,000 years ago, it was gold and silver, precious metals. Before that, it might have been animals, right? Before that, it might have been your ability to throw a spear 30 feet away so you could hunt food. Right? There are things that are valuable, that are productive, that help everyone out. Okay, is anyone still writing?
Yes.
We'll do our takeaways real quick, and then we will move on. We will quickly go over our writing stuff. We are a bit behind. We're good? Alexa, you okay back there? You good up here? Okay, I'm going to move on. This slideshow is available in your notes if you need to fill it out. But I just want to get this done. Anyways, takeaways from this lesson. So you have new technologies, which means you have less people farming. More people are free. They have free time and they can move into cities. You have mass congregation of people and a lot of time on their hands. As population density increases, so as there's, you have a city with 50,000 people in it that's very dense at the time, you have more opportunities to exchange ideas. This exchange of ideas is what leads to the Renaissance. There's advancements in various academic fields. This begins to transform the human understanding and experience. Not just understanding of ourselves, but understanding of our place in the world as well. Right? So at one point in history, people thought that everything revolves around the earth. Now we understand that the earth revolves around the sun, and there's this big revolution around the solar system. We don't need to talk about that. Okay. There's a demand for change, and there's various revolutions and a shifting of the status quo. Okay. The Enlightenment only further advances the ideas being formulated during the Renaissance. They're questioning the status of the church, the king, questioning the dogma and indoctrination of religion, and the position of the government and ruler. Okay. Oh man, there's another slide. Okay, we'll just do that tomorrow. Okay. Well, in that there, we'll go on to the writing bit.